Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 20th Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, Eric Donovan.
Good to be with you here on Trips and Traps this week. We got 5 races to bring you, and we'll get things started off with the 7th race from June 12th. It's a maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up, going a mile on the turf.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a horse named 3 Streets. It's kind of a little obvious here as you see the break, and he's already sort of left the picture there, actually, 3 Streets. 3 Streets breaks a little bit slowly, just completely drops out of the race, and it was a race that was won somewhat impressively by a first-time starter for John Sheriff's, actually his first winner here in New York. Wire to wire, horse that was bet strongly from the start. And what I liked about 3 Streets, Eric, was, and she won't be in the picture for a long time, it's the only horse that made up any ground and made a significant run.
Yeah, I mean, the second-place finisher, Defiance, sitting about the 4th in this spot here early on. But you're right, 3 Streets is the only one that makes up any ground. And this looks to me like it could be a productive race. So you had the first-time starter that took all the money, Peace and Justice, for John Sheriff to win the race. And, Defiant getting on the grass for the first time for Christophe Clement. Looks like this maiden special weight race could be okay. You certainly know that Kieran McLaughlin doesn't have him cranked up, first time out when they come to this country, and second time out is usually the move here. So I got to expect 3 Streets to move forward next time.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And perhaps be in a race where maybe after one start she'll be able to break more sharply in this race and not take herself completely out of the gate. I'm assuming that this is for fillies. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm calling her a filly and it's actually a colt.
It's a colt.
It is a colt. I can usually assume I'm wrong on that. And there comes 3 Streets, if we can stop it and circle. Well, sort of left the picture right there. But you got to see this horse making a big run. Makes a big run from well back in the race, and we'll pick him up again as he comes around the turn. He's the only one making this run, as we said before. An interesting race, too, because it was a very, very controlled pace, where they pretty close to went 24 quarters every way around. And I think that hurts a horse like 3 Streets trying to come from this far back.
Oh, of course. I mean, he left himself with so much to do to make up that ground to get it into contention. And then, you don't have that fast pace. You don't have a contested pace. So you got to do even more work to try to, get to the winner in the final stages or cut into that lead a little bit. So, really 3 Streets had everything go against him in this race here. Between the bad break, the way the pace scenario unfolded here, does well to be third in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not gaining right towards the end. I think the rider realized he had third wrapped up. There was no reason to abuse the horse. And just a horse, 3 Streets, that could go on and do some decent things. I don't think we're uncovering some horse going to be a big price, but a horse to keep your eye on.
All right, we'll move on to the dirt now for the 8th race on June 14th. An allowance optional claimer for fillies and mares going 6 furlongs. Just a strange race from how it looked like it would develop on paper to how it played out on the track.
And how it was bet before the race. Now, before we break this, and hold on a second, I want to talk about it for a second. You and I thought it was very strange that Baby J was under 2 to 1. I mean, your morning lines, when very frequently, just hang on a second, we're going to talk for a second. Frequently when you and I will argue about horses' odds, I'll say, how come that horse was 2 to 1? You'll say, well, I did have her 5 to 2 in the morning line. This horse you had 5 to 1 and was never more than 2 to 1, Baby J. Went down to 9 to 5 at the end. In a race completely loaded with speed, a horse that, at least from a buyer figure standpoint, didn't look particularly good. May have looked a little bit better on some other numbers, but from a buyer standpoint, wasn't particularly impressive. And as the gate breaks, it's not clear whether 7 or 6. I think the 7 herds the 6 a little bit. The 6 comes in. The 4 and 5, 2 of the main speeds, the 4 especially, broke a little slow, and they get taken out of the race completely. You can see the trouble there.
Yeah, that's that goes to explain things as to how the race unfolded, and Well Kept ended up on the lead from the inside going wire to wire here. You for sure would have thought that 5-Star MOMMA would have ended up on the lead here.
Absolutely. The 4, I think the 4, actually, the horse who really gets in trouble here, has a lot of trouble. Yeah, 5-Star MOMMA, I'm sorry. It's hard to Air to Dare is the other one, I believe.
Air to Dare is the 5,
right.
But 4-Star MOMMA is the 4.
Right.
5-Star MOMMA is the 4.
It's a little bit confusing there, and you see all the trouble that 5-Star MOMMA has being stayed completely out of the race. But the plans were foiled because the horse Well Kept, who didn't really appear to have a ton of speed on paper, certainly has speed to keep up, and you see the 4 and 5 well in the back right now. Well Kept with Alex Solis very cleverly avoiding the trouble. Now, this was a guy when being on the inside helped and went up to duel with Baby J, and Baby J's not that good and not good enough to duel with that horse and win the race.
Yeah, and Baby J, the rider, just conceded a little bit there to Well Kept to go on with it, and Well Kept doesn't look back and goes on. You see the 4-horse 5-Star MOMMA make that move up the inside to get in contention, but really, she lost all her chances to start here.
Yeah, you're talking about a horse with significant speed coming out of a very live race at Churchill Downs with a very fast, I think, 45 and 4 workout going into this race, and you break a little slowly and you get shut off like that, and it's just over. And whatever your best plans are, they're just finished. And I thought she did a decent job of getting back in the inside. The problem with her is, Eric, they had her ready to go in this race. Is she going to come back in her next race and be ready to run as well as she might have run today?
That's a fair point. I guess you'd like to see Maybe a race with a little less speed in there than there was in this one on paper, and you can go in with a little bit more confidence. But it is a good question. It's she's from a barn that hasn't been winning at a high percentage. Everything was go on this day here, and things just didn't work out. So you do have to wonder, will she be as good physically next time out?
And also, MOMMA Dixie, who picked up the pieces for second there. She looked like the real favorite on paper, and a horse coming off a layoff and coming off a disappointing effort before her layoff. She took no money. I mean, she was hovering at 9-2, 5-1 a lot of the betting, and she ended up getting back down to just below 3-1. If she had gotten the kind of pace to develop that was expected on paper, she might have done better. But honestly, I think the way Well Kept ran, because she can rate also. I don't think she was losing this race regardless.
No, I think you're right. I think she would have, if the 4 and the 5 broke on top there, would have been sitting third behind the speed duel down inside. It would just have been a matter of getting clear run through the stretch,
yeah,
I think.
I think this was exactly that may have been the result, regardless of what happened. But obviously, 5-Star MOMMA and even HEIR to Dare were prevented from doing their best running.
All right, we'll take a look at her ratio now. This is race 7 from June 15th, the New York bred maiden claimer for 3-year-olds going 6.5. I think there was a change of tactics here for her ratio on this day, whereas before he'd just been a send to the lead horse.
Yeah, well, he's a gelding, and I just wanted to show this head on. As you see him in the middle, as you said, he had absolutely no trouble. This was a horse that Junior Alvarado took a hold of, and you have to think that these were the plans of the stable. They gelded him perhaps to settle him down. He's had extreme speed, and he's been a quitter. And now he's going 6.5 furlongs. They tried different tactics, and I like that. That's fine. It's probably a very good move because it's hard to imagine is the way he was running before. He was going to hold a 6.5. I think, though, he got a little over-restrained, maybe a little overzealous, because you see the rider is going to get kind of aggressive, sort of throttling him right here. And I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do. But he ends up back to last, Eric.
Yeah, I think he does. I think there is a little bit of traffic in front of him as they go in the turn here, but not that much where he should be dragged back to last here. I mean, he could have gotten to settle right here a little bit, but he's still going to lose some more ground, and the other 2 horses are going to pass him on the outside. I mean, you just lost about 4 or 5 lengths in that run there.
Yeah, now, obviously, he's letting the others go a little faster. And overall, I think Junior did a good job. He gets him out. You'll see him in the stretch. He gets him out in the clear, and he finishes third here. But you wonder if the plan to rate him meant completely take him out of the race. If he had been sitting perhaps in the middle of the pack, he may have had a better chance in here to get it done. Though I got to tell you something, the winner of this race had some trouble at the start, and the winner was clearly best at 25-1.
Yeah, Stone Rocks for Steve Jerkins, Abel Escano putting it together here at the big price, and you see Horatio in between horses down there in about the 2-path, I guess, 2-3 path.
He's in a 2-3 path, and actually the horse outside of him, angling out to split horses 3 off the outside. That's the eventual winner. Horatio is with him. He was not beating the winner in here. I don't know how he ran here. I'm on the fence. It'll be interesting to see what tactics they use next time, Eric.
You know what I would do with him next time? I'd look for a race 6 furlongs. He's obviously comfortable at that distance. He might get a little bit more pace in front of him. If they want to rate him, I think he'd be better off being rated at 6 furlongs than 6.5 or 7. That would be my plan with him. I don't think you go back to sending him to the lead unless there's absolutely no speed in the race.
No, I don't disagree with that. Even if you look at that race, because the race was coming apart a little bit towards the end, and it's not as though he was accelerating by horses and getting sort of a clear-cut third. I think he ran okay here with the rating, and maybe it'll help him going forward, and maybe he gets more comfortable as they go forward, because he has a little bit of talent. But you're right. I'm not really sure where it's going to go. Maybe 6. Maybe if they're going to rate him, he'll have more of a punch at 6. Good point.
All right, we'll take a look at the Hill Prince now for 3-year-olds at a mile on the turf. This is the 8th race from June 15th, and we'll take a look at the rail horse here, Sayad, who breaks a little bit slowly, looked like the speed on paper.
Yeah, maybe this was certainly not going to help being in front as the horse who zoomed off the lead, finished 7th in here. What I found interesting, Sayad sort of stumbles, but you'll see he very comfortably brings himself back in the race. Then he gets shuffled back back to last or second.
Yeah, you
last.
see, able to overcome the the eventful beginning there and get into a decent stalking spot in here. But then as they make their way onto the backstretch from that dog leg, things are going to kind of close up on him a little bit there, and he's going to be shuffled back a couple of positions there.
It didn't seem like there were a lot of trips in this race for a 12-horse field. A very fairly run race. Red Rocker, the European maiden that came in for Brian Meehan, who ends up finishing last, makes this ridiculous sort of premature move on the outside. But considering the horse finished last, in this field. I'm not sure you want to make too much of the trip. I thought a lot of them had their fairest chances, and the best horse won. Best horse ran 1-2.
Well, a mile on the wide and turf course here at Belmont. I mean, you do have a big field of 3-year-olds, but the wide course certainly helps spread them out a little bit, and gives you a little bit less traffic than you would have in a traditional 7 furlong or mile turf course, if you will. And obviously, Zayed, he's not even on the picture right now. A horse that you figure would have been on the lead or no worse than in that second pack of horses there, but he's got some work to do from where he is.
Yeah. Now the question is, was it a race that was kind of coming apart? I thought he was held up. You see him; he's all the way in the back, and keep an eye on him because those two horses in front of him, they stick to the 1 and 2 path, and he can't split them. And in fact, he ends up having to duck back inside in the stretch. And perhaps if he was able to make his move a little earlier, could he have been a little bit closer? I don't know. But I thought, all things considered, even though he saved ground in this race, I thought he ran okay. Yeah,
I thought he ran okay too. And I think this is a way different horse than the last time you saw him going long on the grass, which is back at Gulfstream in February. They added Lasix for a 2 lifetime going 6 furlongs on the poly track at Keeneland. That seemed to wake him up a little bit in that spot there, and it seems like he ran better in this spot. I think he's a horse on the upswing here for Shadwell Stables and Kieran McLaughlin.
Yeah, I think the biggest question with him, Eric, will be ultimately how far he really wants to go, because he might be a horse better off going 6 or 7, and Kieran might think, I mean, honestly, you race I think it's the Quick Call. Is that the 3-year-old 5.5 furlong race, Saratoga? That might be an interesting race for Kieran to look to get him into. Maybe he gets another turf sprint before Saratoga, but I think he's a horse that might be interesting turning back, because you look at his races, he won at 6 furlongs at Keeneland on synthetic, and this was an okay effort. He might be very good in that spot.
All right, one more race to bring you here on Trips and Traps. The 9th race from the 16th, the New York bred Now Winners What Allowance, going 6 furlongs on the inner turf.
This was a race which, was dominated on the front end, basically 1-2 around the racetrack, where we're going to show you some horses, one being the 8-horse Desert Bliss, who runs 3rd, and then the 10, Avi's Halo, runs 7th. Both these horses had trouble. I think Avi's Halo sneakily could have been a lot better than she had finished in here. And Desert Bliss, honestly, Eric, and this is no sour grapes, I didn't bet on her, I'm not sure she wasn't the best in the race.
She very well might have been. We'll take a look at some of the trouble that she gets into a little bit later on here. You see the winner of the 7, Raking Gold, clearing off the lead in here and getting to establish fairly comfortable fractions after 6 furlongs, 22 and 3, 46 and 2. That's a slow pace here.
Absolutely. When this kind of horse is coming home in 20, when they go 22 and 3, 23 and 4, and then they come home in 23. I mean, good luck to the closers in here, and with trouble, Desert Bliss does a heck of a job here. I don't know that it was the rider of Avi's Halo. You can't say it was her fault, but she ends up getting caught. You'll see. There's Avi's Halo. Watch her after this. Desert Bliss gets inside, gets in a lot of trouble in the stretch. Avi's Halo gets sort of swung out wide out of frustration. The rider ducks in, gets in a little bit of trouble, and I think just got frustrated.
Yeah, I think you're right. Didn't want to have to go outside more and wanted to save a little bit of ground, I guess, and puts himself in a bad spot right there. I mean, you'd much rather have lost a little bit of ground coming off the turn there and been outside with the clear run. Instead, you're in a jackpot there.
Plus a tough spot trying to close into the slower pace as well. I think that's what Desert Bliss was so impressive about, the kick she had. Avi's Halo's a horse. I would dismiss this effort. And next time she runs, if you think she fits on her prior form, I would give her another chance. If you don't, fine. Desert Bliss, I know that she's sort of a one-fer, but she's run well in both of her starts, and this was a good effort. A horse with trouble behind that slow pace. Desert Bliss, certainly no worse than second best and much closer to best if things had played out differently.
Yeah, I mean, she's a horse that's obviously going to get a little bit of attention here because of the trouble. Didn't think it was that strong a field that she ran in. Probably about an average group at best, so I think you need to let Price be your guide a little bit here. I don't think you really want her if she's going to be 2-1 next time out or something like that if she's overbet.
No, I'm not. Yeah, that's a fair enough point. It depends what kind of race she's in. Yeah. She certainly is a horse that could use a little bit more pace in her races, certainly an honest pace. But, you want to look at these races, and, you look at the dynamics of these races, and this was a race where you want to at least look at horses that were forced to try to make up ground. You don't want the first two finishers, I'll be against them going forward. I thought they had good trips in here. Anyway, we can always use your help here on Trips and Traps. It's Trips and Traps at NYRAinc.com.
Thanks for watching.